Cathara pressed her thin fingers against the cold metal wall of the escape pod. The small space felt like a coffin floating in the endless black of space. Her breathing made small clouds in the freezing air. Each breath hurt her lungs more than the last one. The pod's emergency lights blinked red every few seconds. Each blink reminded her that she was dying slowly. The life support system made weak beeping sounds. It was failing just like everything else in her life. She closed her large purple eyes and tried not to think about what happened 3 hours ago. But the memories came back anyway. They always did. The research ship Silent Discovery had been her home for 2 years. She worked as the main engineer with a crew of 12 beings from different species. There was Captain Zorthak, a tall blue Alteran who spoke in careful whispers. There was Dr. Maylin from the crystal people called the Shardhai. Her body looked like living glass that sang when she moved. There were the twin brothers Gek and Rek from the furry Pelorian race. They always finished each other's sentences and smelled like sweet flowers. Cathara thought they were her family. She thought they cared about her. She was wrong. The attack came without warning. Pirates from the Crimson Fleet dropped out of hyperspace like angry hornets. Their ships were black and covered with spikes. They wanted the research data from the ancient ruins on Kepler 442b. The ruins were older than any known civilization. The data could be worth millions of credits. Captain Zorthak ordered everyone to the escape pods. "We evacuate in 60 seconds, he said. His voice stayed calm even when the ship shook from enemy fire. Cathara ran to her engineering station first. She needed to grab the backup data crystals. The information about the ruins was too important to lose. Her people, the Velnari, were known for being smart. They could solve problems that other species could not, but they were also weak and small. Their bones broke easily. Their skin was thin like paper. As she reached for the data crystals, an explosion threw her across the room. Her left arm snapped like a dry stick. Pain shot through her body like lightning. She screamed but kept moving. The data was more important than her pain. She made it to escape pod 7 just as the pirates started boarding the ship. Gek and Rek were already there. They helped her into the pod's medical chair. The automatic system started working on her broken arm. "Where is everyone else?" she asked. "Safe," Rek said, but his flower smell turned sour with fear. "We launch in 30 seconds, Gek added. His hands moved over the control panel. That was when Captain Zorthak's voice came over the comm system. "Pod 7, this is the captain. We have a problem." Cathara felt cold fear in her stomach. "What kind of problem?" "Your pod is too heavy. The pirates are chasing us. We need to move faster to escape. Your medical systems and the extra data storage are slowing us down." She looked at the twins. They would not meet her eyes. "What are you saying?" she whispered. "We need to jettison your pod," the captain said. His calm voice made the words sound normal, like he was ordering tea instead of murdering her. "You will drift in space. Maybe someone will find you, maybe not. But the rest of us will live." "No," she said. "No, you cannot do this. We are family. We are crew." Dr. Maylin's crystal voice joined the conversation. "The math is simple, Cathara. 1 life versus 11 lives. Your species understands logic. You know this is the right choice." "I have the data crystals," Cathara said quickly. "The ruins data. It is worth millions. You need me." "We made copies," Gek said quietly, "before the attack." The pod shook as the automatic systems prepared to release it from the ship. Red warning lights filled the small space. "Please," Cathara begged. "Do not leave me here. I will die." "Probably," Captain Zorthak agreed, "but probably is better than certainly. If we stay together, the pirates will catch us all. Then we all die for sure." The clamps holding her pod to the ship opened with a loud bang. Cathara felt the terrible sensation of falling as her pod separated from the Silent Discovery. Through the small window, she watched her home for 2 years get smaller and smaller. The ship's engines glowed bright blue as it jumped to hyperspace. The pirates chased it. They did not even notice her small pod floating alone in the dark. She was abandoned. For the first hour, she cried. Her tears floated in the low gravity like tiny pearls. She had never felt so alone. The universe was huge and cold and empty. She was just a small speck of life in an ocean of nothing. The Velnari were taught from childhood that the universe did not care about individuals. Survival meant making smart choices. Sometimes smart choices were cruel choices. Other species respected her people because they could make those hard decisions without emotion getting in the way. But sitting in the dying pod, Kethara wondered if being logical was really being smart. Her crewmates had made the logical choice. They saved 11 lives by sacrificing one life. The math was simple. Any Velnari would understand. So why did it feel so wrong? After the second hour, she stopped crying. She started working. The pod's systems were failing, but she was still an engineer. She rerouted power from the artificial gravity to the life support. She turned off all the lights except the emergency ones. She lowered the temperature to save energy. These changes might give her 6 more hours of air, maybe 8 if she was careful with her breathing. It would not be enough. Her people had a saying: "The universe is mathematics, and mathematics is cold." They meant that emotions were useless against the hard facts of physics and chemistry and biology. You could not argue with math. You could not charm it or trick it or beg it to change. The math of her situation was simple. She had 8 hours of air in a part of space where no ships traveled. Her emergency beacon was working, but it only reached a few light hours. The nearest inhabited system was 6 light years away. She was going to die. But as the 3rd hour passed, Kethara made a decision. She would not die like a logical Velnari. She would not accept her fate quietly. She would fight until her last breath. She began recording a message. If someone found her pod years later, they would know what happened. They would know that her crew had abandoned her. They would know that the galaxy's most logical species had chosen cruelty over kindness. "My name is Kethara of the Engineering Guild," she said to the recorder. "I am dying because my friends decided I was not worth saving. The universe is mathematics, but maybe the math is wrong. Maybe caring about each other is more important than survival." Her voice grew weaker as the hours passed. The cold was making her sleepy. Her broken arm throbbed with each heartbeat. But she kept talking. She talked about the ruins they had studied. She talked about her childhood on Velnara Prime. She talked about her dream of finding other species who believed that kindness was stronger than logic. By the 4th hour, her words were becoming whispers. The air tasted thin and sharp. Her breath came in short gasps. She was falling asleep when the miracle happened. The miracle was that Kethara woke up at all. She opened her eyes to darkness. The emergency lights had stopped working while she slept. For a moment, she thought she was dead. Then the pain in her broken arm reminded her that dead people do not hurt. She was still alive. Barely. The pod systems hummed weakly around her. According to the dim display screen, she had been drifting for 3 days. 3 days of slow dying in the cold and dark. Her throat felt like sandpaper. The last water packet had run out yesterday. The air recycler made strange clicking sounds. It was trying to clean carbon dioxide from the air, but it was failing. Soon she would be breathing poison. Outside the tiny window, space looked the same as always. Black emptiness filled with distant stars. But Kethara knew where she was now. The pod's navigation system showed her position. She was drifting through the Whisper Nebula. Other species called it the graveyard. The nebula was full of old battlefields from wars fought long ago. Ships had died here by the thousands. Their metal bones still floated in the cosmic dust. Radiation from ancient weapons made the space dangerous. Most species avoided this place. It was the perfect spot to die forgotten. Kethara tried to laugh, but only made a dry coughing sound. Of course, her pod would drift into the most avoided part of the galaxy. The universe had a sense of humor after all. She looked at the emergency beacon. It was still working, sending out its hopeless signal. For 3 days, it had been calling for help. For 3 days, no one had answered. No one was coming. The logical part of her mind, the part trained by Velnari education, told her to accept this fact. She should stop wasting energy on hope. She should prepare for death with dignity. But another part of her mind, a part she had never listened to before, refused to give up. This part was angry. It raged against the cruelty of the universe. It refused to believe that kindness was impossible. She started talking to the recorder again. Her voice was just a whisper now, but she kept talking. "Day 3, she said. Still alive, still angry. She told the recorder about her species. The Velnari had been exploring space for over 1,000 years. They were good at math and science and engineering. They built the best computers in the galaxy. They designed the fastest ships, but they were terrible at being kind. We calculate everything, she whispered. Food, water, air, fuel. We know exactly how much each person costs to keep alive. We know exactly when someone becomes too expensive to save. Her people were proud of this. They said it made them smart. They said it kept their species strong. The weak died so the strong could live. It was logical. But what if the math is wrong? She asked the empty pod. What if taking care of each other makes us stronger, not weaker? She thought about stories she had heard from other species. The Alterans sometimes shared food with strangers. The Shardhai would sing healing songs for people they had never met. Even the violent Krekstar had legends about warriors who died protecting others. But these were just stories. In real life, everyone followed the same rules. Survival first. Logic first. Calculate the cost before you help. Her crew had followed those rules. They calculated her value and found it too low. So they threw her away. The pod shook slightly. At first, Kithara thought it was her imagination. Then she felt it again. Something was wrong with the artificial gravity. She checked the power systems. The main battery was almost dead. She had maybe 6 hours left before everything stopped working. 6 hours before the cold and darkness claimed her forever. She should be scared. Any logical person would be terrified. But instead she felt strangely peaceful. Maybe this is better, she told the recorder. Maybe dying alone is honest. The universe is cold and empty. Why should I pretend it cares about me? But even as she said the words, she did not believe them. Deep inside, in a place that had nothing to do with logic or math, she still hoped. She hoped that somewhere in the galaxy there were people who would risk their own lives to save a stranger. She hoped that kindness was real. The air was getting thick and stale. Each breath was harder than the last. Her broken arm had stopped hurting. That was probably a bad sign. Her whole body felt numb and distant. She closed her eyes and thought about home. Velnara Prime was a world of silver cities and crystal towers. The air always smelled like the purple flowers that grew in the floating gardens. Her family lived in a tall spire that touched the clouds. But even on her beautiful homeworld, the math was always cold. Children learned early that resources were limited. They learned to share only when sharing benefited them. They learned that love was just a chemical reaction that sometimes got in the way of good decisions. Kethera had believed all of this. Until now. Now, floating in the dark between stars, she realized that the chemical reaction called love might be the most important thing in the universe. Not because it was logical, because it was not logical. Love made people do stupid things. It made them risk their lives for strangers. It made them give food to the hungry, even when they were hungry too. It made them choose kindness over survival. Maybe stupid was better than smart. The pod's lights flickered and went out completely. Now she was truly in the dark. The only sound was her own breathing and the dying whispers of the life support system. She could not see the stars anymore. She could not see anything, but she could still feel her heart beating. She could still think. She was still alive. If anyone finds this recording, she whispered to the darkness, remember that I chose hope over logic. Remember that I believed in kindness even when kindness seemed impossible. Her words drifted away into the silence. The pod continued its lonely journey through the graveyard of ships. Around her, the ghosts of ancient battles watched and waited. Kethara closed her eyes and tried to imagine a universe where strangers helped strangers, where species worked together instead of calculating against each other, where love was stronger than math. It was a beautiful dream. She decided to hold on to it as the darkness closed in. Time moved strangely in the dead pod. Minutes felt like hours. Hours felt like seconds. She drifted in and out of consciousness. Sometimes she dreamed about her crew. In the dreams, they came back for her. They said they were sorry. They said they made a mistake. But then she would wake up to the cold reality. She was alone. She had always been alone. The universe was mathematics, and mathematics did not care about dreams. The air grew thinner. Her breathing became shallow and quick. Her heart worked harder to pump blood through her cold body. This was how it would end, not with violence or drama, just the slow failure of systems, just the gradual stopping of life. She was almost asleep when she heard the sound. At first, she thought it was her imagination, a side effect of oxygen starvation, but the sound came again. A beeping noise. Not from her pod systems. From outside. Someone was trying to contact her. Kethara's eyes snapped open in the darkness. Her heart began to race. The beeping came a third time, then a fourth. It was impossible. No one traveled through the Whisper Nebula. No one would risk their ship to save a dying stranger. The math did not work. But the beeping continued, steady and strong. Someone was out there. Someone had found her. Against all logic, against all the cold mathematics of the universe, someone was coming to help. The voice that came through the dying communication system was unlike anything Kethara had ever heard. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran ship Defiant Horizon. We have detected your emergency beacon. Please respond if you are able. Kethara stared at the communication panel in shock. The voice was speaking Galactic Standard, but with an accent she did not recognize. The words were warm and full of concern. Most species spoke in flat, emotionless tones when conducting business. This voice sounded like it actually cared. Terran. The word took a moment to register in her oxygen-starved brain. Humans. The newest species in the galaxy. She had heard stories about them, but had never met one. Most established species considered humans to be strange and unpredictable. They had only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. Their technology was crude compared to species that had been traveling space for thousands of years. But they were expanding quickly, taking risks that more logical species avoided. Kethara tried to respond, but her throat was too dry. She pressed the communication button and made a weak croaking sound. "We heard you," the human voice said immediately. "Hold on. We are moving to dock with your pod. Everything is going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay." The word seemed impossible. Nothing had been okay for days. Nothing had been okay since her crew abandoned her. How could this stranger promise that things would be okay? Through the small window, Kethara saw lights approaching. A ship was coming toward her, moving carefully through the dangerous radiation fields of the Whisper Nebula. The ship was bigger than her research vessel had been. Its hull was painted white with blue markings. It looked clean and well-maintained, but what shocked her most was that it was there at all. No logical species would risk a valuable ship to save one dying stranger in the most dangerous part of the galaxy. The math did not make sense. "Unknown vessel, what is your species and condition?" the human captain asked. Kethara found her voice. "Felnari," she whispered. "Dying, life support failing. Copy that. We have emergency medical supplies and a full medical bay. Hang in there. We will have you aboard in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. After 3 days of slow death, rescue was only 5 minutes away." Kethara began to shake. Not from cold this time, but from something she had never felt before. Hope mixed with disbelief. She watched through the window as the human ship maneuvered closer. The pilot was skilled. The ship moved smoothly despite the radiation interference and floating debris. Whoever was flying had experience in dangerous places. A docking tube extended from the larger ship and connected to her pod with a solid thunk. Emergency lights came on automatically. Kethara heard the hiss of air flowing into her pod. Clean, fresh air that did not smell like fear and dying systems. The pod's door opened. 2 humans floated into the small space, wearing white uniforms with medical symbols. One was a woman with short brown hair and kind eyes. The other was a man with dark skin and gentle hands. "Hello there," the woman said softly. "I am Dr. Amanda Torres. This is Dr. Marcus Webb. We are here to help you." Kethara stared at them. They looked so different from any species she knew. Their skin was soft and warm-looking instead of scaled or crystalline or furry. Their eyes were small but bright with intelligence. They moved with confident grace in the zero gravity. But what amazed her most was their expressions. They looked worried about her. Actually worried. Like her pain mattered to them personally. "Can you move?" Dr. Webb asked. His voice was as gentle as his hands. "Broken arm," Kethara managed to say. "Cold, hard to breathe." "We will take care of everything," Dr. Torres promised. She pulled out a small device that began scanning Kethara's body. Moderate hypothermia, dehydration, minor malnutrition. Broken radius, but healing well. You're going to be fine. They moved her carefully from the pod to the human ship. The docking tube was warm and filled with good air. Emergency medical equipment lined the walls. Everything was clean and organized and designed to save lives. As they brought her into the ship's medical bay, Cathara saw other humans working. They all looked concerned about her condition. Several of them smiled at her. Not the calculating smiles she was used to from other species, but genuine expressions of care. The medical bay was unlike anything she had seen. Most ships had basic medical computers that could treat simple injuries. This room was filled with advanced equipment designed to save lives at any cost. The walls were covered with supplies for dozens of different species. "How did you know to stock medical supplies for Velnari?" she asked as Dr. Torres began treating her dehydration. "We carry medical supplies for every known species," Dr. Webb explained while examining her broken arm. "Captain Chen believes that if you are going to travel space, you should be ready to help anyone you meet." This statement made no sense to Cathara. Medical supplies were expensive. Stocking equipment for species you might never encounter was wasteful. Any logical captain would only carry supplies for their own crew. "Why?" she asked. The two doctors looked at each other. "Because people need help sometimes," Dr. Torres said, as if this explained everything. It did not explain anything. Not to someone raised on Velnari logic. But before Cathara could ask more questions, Captain Chen entered the medical bay. The human captain was a tall woman with gray hair and confident movements. Her uniform was neat and professional. Her face was serious but not cold. When she looked at Cathara, her expression was full of concern. "How are you feeling?" Captain Chen asked. "Confused," Cathara answered honestly. "Why did you save me?" Captain Chen tilted her head. "I do not understand the question. My rescue. That makes no sense. I am one person. You risked your ship and crew to save one person. The cost is too high. The benefit is too low. Why did you do it?" The captain sat down in a chair next to the medical bed. "You needed help. We could provide help. It is that simple. But the math—" "What math?" Cathara tried to explain. "The fuel to reach me. The risk to your ship from the radiation. The time lost from your mission. The cost of medical supplies. All of this is expensive. I cannot pay you back. There is no profit in saving me." Captain Chen looked genuinely puzzled. "We did not save you for profit. We saved you because it was the right thing to do." "The right thing according to what calculation?" "No calculation. Some things are right because they are right. Saving people who need help is one of those things." This answer made Cathara's head hurt. She had been taught that everything could be calculated. Every decision had a cost and a benefit. Nothing was simply right without mathematical proof. "I do not understand your species," she said. Captain Chen smiled. "That is okay. You will have plenty of time to learn. We are taking you to the nearest Velnari station. The trip will take 6 days." 6 days? Cathara sat up quickly, then regretted it as dizziness hit her. "That is impossible. You cannot delay your mission for 6 days just for me." "Why not?" Because the cost is 6 days," Captain Chen said calmly. "You are alive and safe." "That seems like a good trade to me." Dr. Torres finished treating Cathara's arm and stepped back. "You should rest now. Your body has been through a lot. Sleep will help you heal." As the humans prepared to leave the medical bay, Cathara called out, "Wait, I need to know. Is this normal for humans? Do you always help strangers?" Captain Chen paused at the door. "We try to. Do other species not help strangers?" "Only when it benefits them. Only when the math works out." The captain looked sad. "That sounds like a lonely way to live." After the humans left, Cathara lay in the comfortable medical bed and tried to process what had happened. These strange beings had risked their lives to save her. They expected nothing in return. They seemed genuinely happy that she was alive. It was the most illogical thing she had ever experienced. It was also the most wonderful. For the first time in days, Cathara fell asleep without fear. She was safe aboard a ship full of people who had chosen kindness over mathematics. She was beginning to understand that maybe the universe was not as cold as she had been taught. Maybe there was something better than logic after all. Cathara woke up to the sound of gentle music. Not the cold electronic tones that most ships used for alerts, but actual music. Someone was playing a stringed instrument somewhere on the ship. The melody was soft and peaceful. It made her feel safe. She sat up in the medical bed and looked around. Someone had brought her fresh clothes while she slept. Velnari clothing, sized perfectly for her small frame. There was also a tray of food on the bedside table. The smell made her stomach growl loudly. "Good morning," said a voice from the doorway. Dr. Webb entered the medical bay carrying a data pad. "How are you feeling?" "Better," Cathara said. And she was. The warmth and good air and soft bed had done wonders. Her broken arm still hurt, but the pain was manageable now. "Thank you for the clothes and food. Captain Chen asked the computer to fabricate clothes for you. The food is from our kitchen. Chef Rodriguez made it special for Velnari dietary needs." Cathara stared at him. "Your captain ordered custom clothes for me?" "Of course. You could not wear your old clothes. They were damaged and dirty. But the energy cost to fabricate new clothes—" Dr. Webb looked confused. "It costs very little energy. Why would that matter?" This was exactly the kind of thinking that baffled Cathara. On Velnari ships, fabricating clothes for a stranger would require approval from the Resource Allocation Committee. Someone would have to calculate the energy cost against the ship's reserves. Forms would need to be filled out and signed. "Does Captain Chen not track resource usage?" she asked. "She tracks it, yes. But providing clothes and food for a rescued person is standard practice. It does not require special approval." Cathara ate the food while Dr. Webb checked her medical readings. The meal was simple but delicious. Grains and vegetables prepared in a style that reminded her of home. Someone had researched Velnari cuisine to make this. "Dr. Webb," she said carefully, "may I ask you a personal question?" "Of course. Why do you help people?" "I mean, what do you get from it?" The human doctor sat down across from her. "I get the satisfaction of knowing that someone is no longer suffering. I get to use my skills for something meaningful. I get to sleep well at night knowing I did the right thing. But those are just feelings. They do not have measurable value." "Who says feelings do not have value?" Dr. Webb asked. "Happiness, satisfaction, peace of mind. These things make life worth living. You cannot put a price on them, but that does not mean they are worthless." This idea was revolutionary to Cathara. Her people measured everything in credits and resources and energy expenditure. They had formulas for calculating the value of happiness, but only as it related to productivity and efficiency. "What if helping people made you poorer?" she asked. "What if it put you in danger? Would you still do it?" Dr. Webb thought about this for a moment. "Yes, I think I would. Within reason, of course. I have a family to think about. But if I could save someone's life without destroying my own, I would do it. Even if that person was a stranger. Especially if they were a stranger. Family helps family because they have to. Helping strangers is a choice. It says something about who you are as a person." After Dr. Webb left, Cathara walked slowly through the ship. Her legs were still weak, but she wanted to see more of this strange vessel. She wanted to understand these impossible humans. The ship was larger than it had looked from outside. The corridors were wide and well lit. The walls were painted in warm colors. Artwork hung in frames showing pictures of Earth landscapes and human faces. Everything felt welcoming and alive. She found the ship's library and spent hours reading human history. What she learned amazed her. Humans had a long tradition of helping strangers. They had organizations called charities that existed only to help people in need. They had laws that required doctors to treat patients even if those patients could not pay. During wars, human soldiers would risk their lives to save enemies who were wounded. They had rules called Geneva Conventions that protected prisoners and civilians. They believed that some things were more important than victory. The more she read, the more confused she became. This behavior made no evolutionary sense. Species that wasted resources on strangers should have died out long ago. But humans had not only survived, they had thrived. "Interesting reading?" asked Captain Chen, settling into a chair nearby. "Confusing reading," Cathara replied. "Your species should not exist. By all logical principles, you should have destroyed yourselves with inefficiency." Captain Chen laughed. "Maybe we are more efficient than you think. Maybe helping each other makes us stronger, not weaker. How can that be true? Resources spent on others are resources not spent on yourself. Are they? When humans help each other, we create networks of cooperation. Someone who is helped today might be the one who helps tomorrow. We build trust and loyalty. We create communities that can survive things that would destroy individuals." Cathara had never thought about it this way. So helping others is actually an investment in your own future? Sometimes, but not always. Sometimes we help people knowing we will never see them again. Sometimes we help people who cannot help us back. We do it because it makes the universe a better place. That is not logical. No, Captain Chen agreed. It is not logical. It is something better than logical. It is right. Over the next few days, Kithara experienced human kindness in dozens of small ways. Chef Rodriguez taught her to cook human food. Engineer Kim showed her the ship's systems and asked for her opinions on improvements. Pilot Santos played music for her and told her stories about his childhood on Earth. None of these humans expected anything in return. They seemed genuinely happy to have her aboard. They treated her like family, even though she was a stranger from a different species. On the fourth day, Kithara made a discovery that shocked her to her core. She was reviewing the ship's logs when she found the record of her rescue. The Defiant Horizon had been carrying medicine to a human colony that was suffering from a plague. The medicine was urgently needed. People were dying while waiting for it. But when they detected her emergency beacon, Captain Chen had immediately ordered the ship to change course. They had lost 3 days traveling to reach her. 3 days during which people on the colony continued to suffer and die. The humans had chosen to save one dying stranger over helping their own species. Kithara found Captain Chen on the bridge and confronted her about this. "You delayed medical supplies to save me," she said. "People of your own species died because you chose to rescue me instead." Captain Chen looked up from her command chair. "That is correct. How can you live with that decision? How can you choose a stranger over your own people? Those people were sick, but they were not dying immediately. You were dying immediately. We made the choice to save the life that was most in danger. But they were humans. I am just a Velnari." Captain Chen's expression became stern. "There is no just about it. You are a person. Your life has exactly the same value as any human life. Species does not matter when someone needs help." This statement hit Kithara like a physical blow. In her entire life, no one had ever said that her life was equal to the life of someone from a more powerful species. The Velnari were useful as engineers and scientists, but they were not considered equals by the galaxy's major powers. "You really believe that?" she whispered. "I really believe that. So does my crew. So do most humans." That night, Kithara lay in her bed thinking about everything she had learned. These humans had a completely different way of looking at the universe. They saw kindness as strength instead of weakness. They saw helping others as a moral duty instead of a business transaction. Most amazingly, they saw her as an equal, not as a useful tool or a burden to be calculated, but as a person whose life mattered. For a Velnari raised on logic and efficiency, it was a revelation that changed everything. Maybe the universe was not cold mathematics after all. Maybe there was something warm and living at its heart. Maybe the humans were showing her what that something looked like. The next day, they would reach Velnari space. She would have to decide whether to return to her people or to stay with these strange, wonderful humans who had saved her life and opened her mind to new possibilities. It was the most important decision she had ever faced. And for the first time in her life, she was going to make it with her heart instead of her head. The Velnari space station looked exactly as Kithara remembered. Clean metal surfaces reflected the light of the system's twin suns. Perfect geometric shapes connected by straight corridors. Everything was efficient and logical and cold. Standing in the docking bay of the Defiant Horizon, watching her homeworld grow larger on the screen, Kithara felt like she was seeing it for the first time. After 6 days with the humans, the station looked sterile and unwelcoming. "Having second thoughts?" Captain Chen asked, joining her at the window. "Many thoughts," Kithara replied, all of them confused. The human captain stood quietly beside her. Over the past week, Kithara had learned that humans were comfortable with silence. They did not feel the need to fill every moment with words or calculations. Sometimes they just existed together in peaceful quiet. It was another thing that made no logical sense but felt completely right. "Captain," Kithara said finally, "I need to tell you something. My crew did not abandon me by accident. They chose to let me die. They calculated that my life was worth less than their escape." "I know," Captain Chen said softly. "You know? How?" "We intercepted their communications when we rescued you. We heard everything." Kithara turned to stare at her. "You heard them abandon me and you still saved me." "Of course we did." "What they did to you was wrong. It does not matter that they are your species or that they had logical reasons. Abandoning someone to die is always wrong. But according to Velnari ethics, they made the correct choice. 1 life for 11 lives. The mathematics are clear. Captain Chen was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was gentle but firm. Mathematics can tell you how to build a ship or navigate through space. But mathematics cannot tell you how to be a good person. Some things are too important for math. The communication system chimed. Captain Chen, this is Station Controller Zex High. We have received your request to transfer the Velnari citizen. Docking Bay 7 is ready. Acknowledged, Captain Chen replied. She turned to Kethara. Are you ready? Kethara looked around the human ship one more time. In the past 6 days, she had felt more at home here than she ever had on Velnari vessels. The humans had treated her like family. They had shown her a different way of living, a way based on kindness instead of calculation. What if I do not want to leave? She asked. Captain Chen raised her eyebrows. What do you mean? I mean, what if I wanted to stay with your ship? With your crew? What if I wanted to learn more about being human? You want to request asylum? The word felt strange but right. Asylum. Protection from the cold logic of her birth species. Yes, I think I do, Captain Chen smiled. Then we would be honored to have you as a crew member. Dr. Webb tells me you are a brilliant engineer. We could use someone with your skills, but I am not human. I do not understand your ways completely. You do not have to be human to join our crew. You just have to believe that people should help each other. I think you already believe that, Kethara nodded. She did believe it now. The humans had shown her that kindness was not weakness. It was the strongest force in the universe. The docking procedure began. The Defiant Horizon connected smoothly to the Velnari station. But instead of preparing to leave, Kethara prepared to make her choice official. The station's representative who came aboard was Controller Zex High himself. He was an old Velnari with silver skin and tired eyes. Kethara had known him since childhood. He had been her father's friend. Kethara, he said formally, you have survived an unfortunate incident. We are pleased to have you home. Thank you, Controller, but I am not coming home. Zex High's large eyes blinked slowly. I do not understand. I am requesting asylum with the humans. I want to join their crew. The Controller looked shocked. Behind him, 2 other Velnari officials whispered to each other in their musical language. They were calculating, always calculating. This is highly irregular, Zex High said. You are a citizen of the Velnari Republic. You have obligations to your people. My people abandoned me to die, Kethara replied. They decided my life had no value. Why should I feel obligated to them? Because it was the logical choice. Zex High's voice rose with frustration. Your research team faced an impossible situation. They chose to save the greatest number of lives. You of all people should understand this. I do understand it, and I reject it. Captain Chen stepped forward. Controller Zex High Kethara has the right to request asylum under galactic law. She is not your property. She is not property, but she is valuable, one of the other officials said. She possesses important engineering knowledge. Losing her would be inefficient. There it is, Kethara said sadly. Even now you see me as a resource to be calculated, not as a person with feelings and choices. Zex High looked genuinely confused. What else would you be? We are all resources. We all have value based on our skills and knowledge. This is how civilized species function. No, Kethara said firmly. This is how your species functions. But it is not the only way. She gestured to the humans around her. These people saved my life not because I was valuable to them, but because my life had value by itself. They risked their ship and delayed their mission to help a stranger. They spent resources on me knowing they would never be repaid. That is inefficient. That is kindness. And kindness makes them stronger, not weaker. Zex High and the other Velnari looked at the humans with something like fear. These beings are not logical. They make decisions based on emotion. How can they function as a society? Captain Chen answered. We function very well, thank you. Humans have gone from a single planet to over 200 colonies in 50 years. We have made allies with dozens of species. We have eliminated poverty and disease from our worlds, all because we believe in helping each other. Impossible. Such rapid expansion requires careful resource management and logical planning. It requires trust and cooperation, Captain Chen corrected. When people know that others will help them, they are willing to take risks. They explore new worlds and try new ideas. They work together instead of competing against each other. Dr. Webb joined the conversation. Controller, may I ask you something? When was the last time your species made a major breakthrough in technology or science? Zexai thought about this. Our last significant advancement was approximately 200 years ago. Why so long between breakthroughs? Because major research is expensive. It requires resources that could be used for immediate needs. The risk of failure is too high. So your logic prevents you from taking the risks that lead to progress, Dr. Webb observed. You have become so efficient that you have stopped growing. Kithara watched her people's faces as they processed this idea. She could see them calculating, trying to find flaws in the human's argument. But the math was clear. The Velnari had become so focused on efficiency that they had lost the ability to innovate. I want to learn from the humans, she said. I want to see what is possible when people choose kindness over calculation. Zexai sighed. If this is truly your choice, we cannot stop you. But remember, you will always be welcome to return home. Thank you, but I think I have found my real home. The Velnari officials left the ship looking confused and troubled. As their shuttle departed, Kithara felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She was free now. Free to choose kindness over logic. Free to help others without calculating the cost. Captain Chen put a hand on her shoulder. Welcome to the crew, Engineer Kithara. Thank you, Captain. But I have one question. Why do humans do this? Why do you help people even when it costs you? Captain Chen thought for a moment. Because we believe that every person matters. Because we know that the universe can be cruel and cold, and we want to make it a little warmer. Because helping others is how we become the best versions of ourselves. She paused, looking out at the stars. And because someday we might be the ones who need help. We want to live in a universe where strangers care about strangers. The only way to create that universe is to be the kind of people who care. As the Defiant Horizon undocked from the station and headed back into space, Kithara felt a new kind of peace. She was beginning to understand that the humans had found something that her people had lost. They had found the secret to being truly strong. It was not about having the best weapons or the most efficient systems. It was about caring for each other. It was about choosing love over fear, kindness over calculation, hope over logic. The universe was vast and cold and full of dangers, but it was also full of people like the humans who refused to let the cold win. They carried warmth and light wherever they went. They saved strangers and helped enemies and chose cooperation over competition. Kithara had been abandoned by her own species and left to die in the darkness between stars. But she had been found by people who believed that every life mattered. People who proved that kindness was not just possible but powerful. She was ready to spend the rest of her life learning how to be that kind of person. She was ready to help humans show the galaxy that there was a better way to live. The Defiant Horizon jumped to hyperspace, carrying its newest crew member toward a future bright with possibility. Behind them, the Velnari station grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely. Kithara did not look back. She was too busy looking forward to the adventures that lay ahead.